All right, so here is the full truth about saving my first $100,000. But before we get into all that, I just want to preface this video by saying that this is going to be a rather, honest, raw, kind of unfiltered video. It's not going to be one of my more edited videos, and part of that is because I am in the middle of actually moving into a new apartment, so things are very crazy around here. But despite being very busy with that move, I still wanted to show up for you guys this week, and so I thought it could be nice to have a little chat, just me and you. How you doing? I just really want to talk about a few things that I think are really important that didn't maybe get mentioned in the previous video I made on saving my first $100,000, because I think there's a lot of aspects to it that don't get talked about nearly as much as they probably should. And I've found that that's actually become more the case recently, especially this year. So this past year has been, I think, definitely an anomaly in the way that things like the stock market behave, in the way that people have become very interested in personal finance. I have never seen this many people interested in personal finance, interested in investing, and that is great. That is absolutely amazing to see, because if you get interested in personal finance and investing and all these great things, and you actually integrate that into your life, it's going to change your life in so many ways. But I would just want to caution you, if you're somebody who just started investing over the past year, or just kind of started learning about personal finance over the past year was very kind to many investors. We saw so many different stocks just go on an incredible run, whether that's everything from, anyone who bought Tesla or anything like that is absolutely just caking in investment gains from that. We saw the meteoric rise of things like cryptocurrencies as well. It just seems like everywhere you look, people were making money on this thing or that thing, and a lot of money, very, very quickly. And so it would lead to people who weren't investing in those things to feel left out. Terms like the FOMO economy are getting thrown around because there's a lot of people who are watching all these various people get rich off these different things. But like I said earlier, this isn't the way that investing always is. So I've been investing for, I think, about a decade now, and it has been a bull run. So the stock market has been increasing pretty much for that entire decade, but not quite like this, and not quite in the way some of these stocks have gone on crazy runs as of late. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, if you just got into investing now, don't expect it to always be this way, because if history is any guide, it's definitely not going to always be this way. And so that highlights the importance of the basic personal finance wisdom that I think a lot of us have forgotten over the past year. Personal finance at its heart is not about finding easy ways to make money. It's not about, passive income, making money without doing any work. It's not about trying to get rich quick off the next best stock. Those things can definitely happen sometimes, but more often than not, it can actually lead you down the wrong path. Now, for me, and I can only speak from my own experience, saving my first $100,000, while I did definitely invest my money along the way to help grow it, that was so much more a product of the classic personal finance advice, like the age-old wisdom of, things like managing your income and your expenses, building an emergency fund, paying off your debts. Like, those basic principles will get you very, very, very far. The basic principles are actually very easy. They're very easy to understand, and they're very, very easy to do. It's just sticking with them is the hard part. Sticking with them for a long period of time is the hard part, because for me, it took, I guess, over 3 years to get past the $100,000 mark. Now, that might seem like a long period of time to some people. It may seem like a really fast period of time to some people. But at the end of the day, that was pretty much purely a result of me sticking to a few very simple rules, but really sticking to them for years, a year after year after year. And that's how I was able to stack that money over time. In my experience, there's no secret tricks to do this. There's no magical formula to make it happen. You can get lucky, and you can make very big speculative bets and have those pay off for you, like on individual stocks or cryptocurrency or things like that. And that will work some of the time, but it'll also not work a lot of the time. Whereas the classic personal finance wisdom will work all of the time. It might be a bit slower, but it works in kind of a slowly but surely fashion. And that's why I like to follow that methodology as opposed to trying to basically gamble my money. Like, I'd rather not lose my money. I'd like to carefully build it up over time and securely keep it always. So because of the market environment that we're in the past year we've had and things like that, I just wanted to remind you guys that I do have a personal finance course. And right now, because it is around the summer solstice, and I like to kind of structure these types of things around different kind of celestial events like that, I guess you could say. My course is going to be 25% off right now, so you can go ahead and check that out in the link in the description down below. And now, like, a really, really valid question. Well, there's two I can think of. There's two really valid questions that you should have when I present to you that I have a course. The first question I would assume you would have is, Steve, you have a personal finance channel and you're selling a course. So if I'm trying to learn about money, shouldn't I want to save my money and not like spend it on things like a course? Especially when a lot of personal finance courses or investing courses can be, rather questionable. A lot of them might claim, this strategy is going to make you really rich really quickly. It's going to make you a millionaire this year or whatever, or come buy my portfolio of the best stocks. Yeah, I can't really comment on courses like that, but that's not what my course is. My course is about this classic personal finance wisdom and steps and things that I believe everybody should know that will work for, I think, pretty much anybody. Like, it's the exact type of personal finance information that I wish I would have had when I was in school, and I think would be perfect for people to learn when they're in, high school or even in university, college, whatever, and then move on into the actual world, because it doesn't contain anything in it that's like this secret formula or anything like that. No, it is classic personal finance wisdom, advice, whatever you want to call it, that actually works slowly but surely. It's not going to make you a millionaire overnight. It's not going to do anything like that. I don't know how to do that. I can't share anything about that with you, but it's exactly what I used to get over $100,000 in 3 or 4 years, something like that. So, and there's nothing amazing about my particular case. I mean, I did pretty much 99% of that prior to starting a YouTube channel. That's when I was working a regular job. And the second thing that I would assume you would be asking is, what's different from the course than the rest of your YouTube channel? And that is an excellent question and an excellent thing to consider before you actually invest the money into this course. So I would basically explain it like this. YouTube is a place where you can create a lot of content without rules, but you still do have to create your content to tick a few different boxes. Because when you put out a YouTube video, you want it to perform well. And that means that you want the audience to be engaged. You want it to basically meet a few different metrics. And in order to do that, you need to walk the line between education and entertainment. So that's YouTube, is education and entertainment put together into one to create a nice package that the vast majority of people will enjoy watching. When it comes to my course, I created something that is purely educational. I don't have really anything entertaining in there because its goal is to not entertain you in any way. It's to give you information. So it's going to be drier than my YouTube videos for sure, because it doesn't have that stuff in it. It's just, here's the information in a really straightforward, easy to understand way. It's a course. That's kind of the point of it. So those are the two main distinctions I would make between my YouTube videos and my course. And on top of that, the course basically takes all the information, synthesizes it, and puts it in one nice place for you to find it all. On YouTube, you'd have to, pick through all the different videos to pick out all the information and put it together on your own, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's really up to you, whatever you want to do. You can pay for the value of having that in a course format, or you can watch a bunch of YouTube videos, whatever you want to do. But with all that said, I think the course is really good. The people who have taken it also seem to think it's pretty good. It has a pretty good rating that I'm really happy to see. So yeah, I'll stop rambling about that anyway, but I just wanted to address that because I have noticed those questions a lot. So hopefully that helps clarify that a bit more for you guys. The next thing I wanted to touch on is that the huge amount of money that I saved up to that $100,000 mark, a big part of that I was not even investing it. And that's because I follow a rule where if I need money, if I need this chunk of money I have in the next 1 to 5 years, I'm not going to be investing that. And that's because I don't think that's just not within my particular risk tolerance to invest money that I will need within 5 years. And that's because that's a short frame of time within that the stock market could crash and may not fully recover. So you could lose money potentially if you're investing money that you may need 5 years into the future. So with a lot of my money, I thought to myself, I might need this in the next 5 years. So you know what I did instead? I put it into a high interest savings account. Now, you don't really hear a lot about high interest savings accounts anymore. Part of that's because interest rates are very low and you don't get the best return on a high interest savings account, but I still believe they're a very important part of a holistic financial setup, whatever you want to call it. I believe they're very important for, if you have money that you may need to use in the next 5 years, if you want to follow the same type of thinking that I do, the data really shows that you can be putting your money at risk if you put it into the stock market and you may need it in the next 5 years. I personally used a high interest savings account at EQ Bank, which is an online bank in Canada. They have one of the highest and most competitive interest rates, and their high interest savings account is completely free to use. There's no fees or anything like that. I believe the rate is currently somewhere around 1.25-ish%. And right now I've been stacking a lot of money in there because Justine and I have a goal to actually save up some money to try and build a very small, nothing too crazy, a very small cabin, hopefully within the next 5 years. And we would really like to do that, to have kind of a nice wilderness escape for us to kind of go to get away from things and get some quiet time in nature. So I've been stacking money inside of this high interest savings account because of that time length, because of that within the next 5-year period. I don't want to invest it in the stock market because I don't want to go in year 5 when I need to take it out because I'm ready to build my cabin now and see that the stock market has lost 50% of my value and to only find half my money in those investments. So I have about, I think, $40,000 right now that I've saved back into this high interest savings account, and I'm planning to get that up to something like hopefully 100K is my target savings goal for that. And yeah, I'm going to park all of that money just in this high interest savings account because I want to keep it safe, because I may probably need it in the next 5 years. You can check out EQ Bank in the description down below. I've been super happy using them. This is not sponsored by them or anything like that. I'm just a very happy user and I love to share them with other people. Now, the next point I wanted to make about saving my first $100,000 is the importance of increasing your income. Now, a lot of the time in the personal finance community, there's a lot of emphasis placed upon reducing your expenses, and that makes sense. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. That's a great thing to do, but it can only be done to a certain degree. You can only reduce your expenses to a certain point, and then once you get there, they can't be reduced anymore because you need certain things in order to be able to live and comfortably at some comfort level anyway, whatever suits you. But the way I like to think about it is it might be a really good idea to, once you've established that expense level where you're like, okay, here's a reasonable expense level. I'm not spending too much money on things that I don't really need. And, I'm meeting all my basic requirements to live at least a somewhat comfortable life. Then I believe the emphasis should maybe be not so much on pulling in your expenses, but pushing out your income and asking yourself, how can I earn a higher income? Because higher incomes are really important to, I think, unlocking rapid wealth building or really accelerating your wealth building to the stages past $100,000. And that's because, if you're saving half your income on a $50,000 salary, like I was when I was making $47,500 was my first salary I got outside once I graduated, and I started by saving 50% of my income. Now my income is much higher than that, so I save much more than 50% of my income. I'm, hoping and sometimes actually hit it. It's above 90% of my income now, which is a huge difference and really allows you to stack that money month after month. So if I could share something with you about what I found to be useful in terms of increasing my own income, was don't allow yourself to settle. So when I was in school, I was studying accounting. And then after school, I was strongly considering trying to pursue a CPA designation. So I was trying to get hired by various accounting firms, and it wasn't going so well. I didn't really land the job offers that I was looking for at some of the firms that I really wanted to work for. So then I decided to not really go after the CPA thing and to try out some other career paths. But over time, I kept getting these jobs where it just didn't feel quite right. And I wasn't really excelling in those environments. I wasn't doing poorly. I was doing well, but I knew I could excel at something. It needed to be the right thing, and I hadn't found that yet. And I wonder if that resonates with you. I wonder if maybe you are in a position right now where maybe you're not excelling as much as you would like to, but you also you feel as though, maybe this just isn't the right environment for me, and maybe you don't know what that environment is yet. Well, that's exactly how I felt. I knew I could excel if I found the right fit for myself. And I realized now, looking back in hindsight, that I was a square peg trying to fit into a round hole in these accounting firms. Like, it just wasn't the right fit. I know I'm a talented person, and I know you are a talented person. But it doesn't matter if you're in the wrong place. Your talents aren't going to work the way they're supposed to. Imagine, it's kind of like, planting, I don't know, I've been growing like a vegetable garden lately. So it's kind of like planting a vegetable or something. If you plant the seed in the wrong environment, it's not going to grow correctly. But if you plant it in the right environment, in the perfect environment, it's going to grow into a beautiful plant. So, I would really, really focus on finding the right environment for you where you can really thrive. Because now that I've found mine, I can tell you that, like, I'm thriving. It's night and day between what I was doing before and what I'm doing now. I feel so much more in control of my income and just like my destiny in general. It's a huge, huge, huge difference. So if you also think that you're a square peg trying to fit into some round hole, find the square hole for you. Find where you fit, and that's where you will excel. I believe everyone can excel. They just need to find the right thing that is the right environment for them. And once that happens, your income can't help but increase. Or maybe it's a different thing. Maybe your quality of life increases in other ways. And as far as I'm concerned, that's just as good as your income increasing. Now, the final point that I would leave you with today is something that my father said to me a number of years ago when I was talking to him about my desire to be financially independent and how that was going to be a very big goal of mine. He told me that the first $100,000 is the hardest. And now that I've reached that mark and crossed it, I can also verify that that is true, because once I pass the $100,000 mark, I'm already well on the way to the $200,000 mark now. The first one seemed like a very, very, very slow slog. And that's because you are building this foundation. You are building this wealth building foundation for yourself. That's kind of just, it's getting things going. It's getting things started. But once it's started, once it's going, it goes. As long as you built that really, really strong foundation. And the reason the first $100,000 is the hardest is because saving money is so much more important than investing your money in the first $100,000. I personally believe, because let's say you invested $10,000 of your savings. If you make 10% in 1 year, that's going to give you $1,000. It's great, but it's not as powerful as that year saving something like $5,000, because then you'd have $15,000 versus $11,000. I believe that you can make a much bigger impact by focusing on how can I save so much money this year? How can I either push my income really far out or pull my expenses really far in to save a ton of money? But now, once you get up to that, $100,000 mark or beyond, 10% on $100,000 is $10,000. So now the impacts of returns on your investment really, really, really start to make that big difference. But for me, I know that focusing more on getting to a 50% savings rate so that I could save, I think I saved something like $20,000 in my first year and then another 30 or something after that. That made a much, much, much bigger impact by focusing on the savings than it would have been if I had, even if I, invested that $20,000 first, it would have made me $2,000. But that year I was able to save $30,000 by focusing so much on creating a lifestyle that would allow me to have that big gap between my income and my expenses. And also remember, it's not linear. Personal finance is not a linear journey. At first, it can seem pretty linear, but let me tell you, once you get things going, you'll start to see the effects of exponential growth pick up very, very quickly. Once you pass this kind of foundational stage that everybody needs to pass through. And it's the hardest part, because it might seem like nothing's really happening. It's a lot of hard work. You've spent, months, maybe even years, and you don't have as much as you'd like to show for it. All I gotta say is stick with it. Just stick with it. And then it's as if like something just clicks and boom, you're on that exponential curve, and it's night and day. But until you get to that point, you just got to keep slogging it out. You really, really do. Stick to those basics. I stuck to those basics religiously. I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't buy Tesla stock. Well, I bought some now, just a little bit, and but I didn't I didn't make a bunch of money off it, and I didn't make a bunch of money off of crypto or any of these other things. I just saved my money, put a lot of it into a high interest savings account, invested the rest in index ETFs, things that people now might label as like, boring, as way too risk averse. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that's the tried and true path to building wealth. I think these other ways are just byproducts of this time that we are experiencing right now, where stonks have only been going up, but those times don't last forever. So I've realized that this was really long, and I don't know if I did a really good job of trying to say what I wanted to say. I haven't done a ton of videos like this where it's just been, just us having a nice chat. So hopefully it wasn't terrible to listen to. If you're still here, that's amazing. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I would love for you to check out. Remember that there's the deal on the course, 25% off, listed down below. Also check out EQ Bank if you yourself need a nice high interest savings account. And other than that, thank you so much for continuing to watch the content that I create. It's been a really good year, and I'm really excited to see what the rest of the year has in store now that the world is kind of coming back together. So thank you, and I'll see you soon, hopefully in a new apartment.